In this video, we will learn about the human female reproductive system. Now, basically, it consists of the primary reproductive organ, which are basically the ovary, okay, which is one pair, female gonads. Now, accessory reproductive organ will include a pair of oviduct and a sac-like uterus, a tubular vagina, as you can see over here. This is our tubular vagina. Now, the external genitalia, which is called the vulva. Okay. Now, accessory reproductive gland include the Bartholin's gland and the vestibular gland. Now, ovary, which are the primary reproductive organ, basically they are a small pair of almond-shaped structure which lie in the lower portion of the abdomen cavity, one on each side of the backbone. They are 3 to 4 centimeter across and is attached to the broad ligament of the uterus by a mesentery called mesovarium. Okay. Now, to visualize this, suppose that this is our ovary. Okay. Now, this is connected to this wall by a broad ligament. Okay. Like this. Okay. Structure of ovary. So, the lining of the ovary is made up of germinal epithelium. That is, this lining is made up of germinal epithelium. Okay. Now, during embryonic life, the cells of germinal epithelium proliferate thousands of primordial follicles, as you can see in the diagram as well. Now, the stroma, which is this part, is composed of fibrous connective tissue. Okay. Now, it contains thousands of tiny underdeveloped ovarian follicles. Now, after puberty, one ovarian follicle matures into a Graafian follicle in each menstrual cycle. Okay. As you can see that this is the maturing and this is the Graafian follicle over here. Okay, this is the Graafian follicle. This was the primordial follicle. Okay, at the age of 12 to 14 in a female, this process occurs. Okay, now each follicle is made up of primary ovum, which is known as oocyte, which is surrounded by one or more layer of follicle cells. Okay, now by further changes, oocyte ripens into ovum. Now, always remember one thing, that the ovaries secrete a female sex hormone. Like in males, the interstitial cells used to secrete testosterone. Over here, the ovaries itself secrete estrogen and progesterone. Okay. Now, it produces mature ova by the process of oogenesis. Now, this is the primordial follicle. Okay. It is like this. Now, it proliferated to become this follicle where another layer develop, which is zona pellucida. Now, this oocyte over here, as you can see, multi-layer zona pellucida is present. Over here, then antrum starts forming, which is nothing but a fluid-filled cavity. Okay, and when antrum appears, it becomes the primary follicle. From the primordial follicle, it becomes the primary follicle. Now, primary follicle becomes the secondary follicle when this antrum cavity expands. Okay, now this becomes a mature follicle, which is the Graafian follicle. Here you can see this is the antrum space. This is the first polar body. This is the secondary oocyte over here. And over here you can see this is zona pellucida. Okay. Now this Graafian follicle ruptures and the secondary oocyte then shoots out of the ovary. Okay. Now the remaining follicle or the leftover of the follicle becomes corpus luteum. Now this then degenerate after some time. Okay. Depending upon the status of pregnancy. Now, accessory reproductive organ, basically, first of all, oviduct, which are nothing but the fallopian tube. Okay, so as you can see over here, this is a oviduct. Okay, basically, each oviduct open into the uterus portion, which is this portion. Its free end is funnel shaped, as you can see over here as well. Now, and lies close to the ovary. Now, the opening of the funnel is called ostium. Ostium, basically, if you have learned about the animal kingdom, ostia were present in porifera because they were small canal-like opening. So here as well, like these are present or infundibulum. The margins of the ostium has finger-like projections called fimbrae, like this. When ovum is released from the ovary, it is picked up by the fimbrae and is conveyed to the uterus through the fallopian tube. Now, ovum is over here. Now, fimbriae collect them, and via oviduct it reaches the uterus. Now, subsequently, the wave of the muscular contraction of the oviduct wall pushes the egg down into the uterus. Now, when the ovum is fertilized, it develops into embryo. Now, if it is not fertilized, it is discharged to the cervix and vagina during the next menstrual flow. Okay. Now, if this ovum fertilized, fertilization takes place over here. Okay. Now, if the ovum is fertilized, then embryo get implanted over here. If not, then this is released via the cervix and vagina. Second is uterus. So it is a pear-shaped muscular organ in which the embryo develops. Now it lies between the urinary bladder and the rectum if you see a diagram. Now 7.5 centimeter long, 5 centimeter wide and 2.5 centimeter thick. So this is the dimension that you have to remember about the uterus. Now the upper part is called the fundus part. This is the body part and this is the cervix part. Cervix part is nothing but a sphincter or a sphincter muscle that closes the lower end of the uterus and protrude into the vagina. This is vagina. Okay. Now vagina is a short and wide muscular tube. Now it is lined by mucous membrane over here and lies between urethra and rectum. It measures about 10 centimeter. Its wall is highly muscular and smooth muscle are present within the vaginal opening during the child birth. Now, vagina receives sperm through the intercourse and acts as a birth canal. Okay, birth canal. It acts as a passage for menstrual flow. The blood will flow from the vagina via the cervix like this from here. Okay. Now the opening of the vagina in young girls is partially closed by a thin membrane over here, which is known as hymen. It is also known as virgin knot. Virgin knot. Okay. If it is ruptured at the time of first intercourse or during the strenuous physical exercise during the childhood. So, because it can also get ruptured by a strenuous physical exercise, so I can say that the hymen is not a true sign of virginity. Now, vulva. So, these are the external genitalia of human female. Basically, it consists of labia, singular labium majora, labia minora, and clitoris. Now, labia majora basically is part of thick fold of skin containing pubic hair, sweat gland, and sebaceous gland. Now, labia minora, which are small lips, are present inside the labia majora, basically on the inner side, like this. Okay, if this is the labia majora part, this is the labia minora part. Okay, these are small folds of mucous membrane which lies on the inner side of the labia majora. Now there are no hairs and sweat gland in the labia minora part, but they are rich in sebaceous gland. Okay, clitoris basically is a small erectile and highly sensitive organ. Basically, it is homologous to penis. Okay, it is located in the uppermost angle of the vulva in front of the urethral opening. Now the vagina opens to the outside by an opening into the depression in the vulva called the vestibule. Now the urinary meatus, the opening of the urethra in the vestibule, is situated below the clitoris and above the vaginal opening. Thus in human female, the urethra and the genital duct have a separate opening unlike males which have a common opening via urethra. Accessory reproductive gland. Basically, the Bartholin's gland or the vestibular gland are the accessory reproductive gland in human female. Now, there are two bean-shaped gland on the either side of the vaginal opening over here. Okay. Now, these glands secrete a clear alkaline fluid under sexual excitement. I hope this topic is clear to you. Thank you.